This is Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine. I'm taking off in a small plane and I'm heading out to sea. If you're hearing this, it means I survived. Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine goes to Matinicus today. Well, not today. It was January 2nd. What the official story is about is that I joined a couple of other birding experts, got in a small plane, and flew out to Matinicus Island to conduct a Christmas bird count. Frankly, if this were just about birds, it would probably be a pretty boring program. But I'll confess right up front that I prepared for this adventure all wrong. Today's show offers up some tips on how to turn an adventure into a misadventure. Now, in my defense, I've never been out to Matinicus before, and the weather forecast kept changing over the days leading up to the adventure, and I didn't know exactly where to meet the plane, and I didn't exactly know if I would be walking roads or beaches or rocky shoreline. And I didn't even know how far we'd walk in an island that's only 1.6 miles long from end to end. And because I didn't know, I got it all wrong. Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine is brought to you by Hammond Lumber, Napa Auto Parts, and EBS. Let's set the scene. The story starts on Wednesday, December 30th. That afternoon, I received a one-sentence email from Jeff Wells. We'll find out who Jeff is in a moment. The email said, "Would you be able to make it out from Matinicus this Friday or Saturday?" Now, I know what he's talking about because this is something I've actually wanted to do for years. For more than a decade, Jeff has been leading a Christmas bird count out on the island right around New Year's Day every year. You'll find out what a Christmas bird count is in a moment. Every year, I've said I was interested in going, and every year I've had a conflict, or maybe just a moment of sanity. But this year, I had the day wide open and no excuses. I looked at the forecast, sunny but windy, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm safe to sign up. This is going to get canceled anyway. It'll be too breezy to do the count, and the plane probably wouldn't fly out to Matinicus on a windy day anyway. So I said yes. The date was set Saturday, January 2nd. Only after I say yes do I find out that I have to be at Knox County Regional Airport before sunrise. That's 2 hours from home. It's 4 a.m. It's too early for this. Here's what I know. I'm supposed to be at the airport by 7 a.m. Official sunrise isn't until 7:15 this morning. In a few hours, I'm climbing into a small plane, flying out to Matinicus. I'll be dropped off, and the plane will leave. Just before sunset, the plane will get back to get us. There'll be no place to leave anything. Whatever I need, I have to carry. Cell phones won't work. There'll be no toilets. It's too early for this. Let me back up. It's Friday night, 8 p.m. Now, as far as I know, temperatures will be below freezing when the day starts, but it will warm up into the 30s. It'll be windy. In fact, it'll be windy, and I'll be on an exposed island. If I dress too light, I'll have no place to warm up. If I dress too heavy, I'll have to carry a ton of extra weight and probably sweat like a sauna. I lay everything out on the kitchen table, long underwear, a thick sweater, my warmest jacket and hat. I look at the pile and take a jersey off the stack and put that back. It's not going to be that cold. I make another strategic decision. I'm not going to carry a backpack. I've got this big coat that I could use at the North Pole. It's got pockets that could carry the contents of a convenience store. I'm going to stuff everything I need into that coat. There's the pile. I've got a peanut butter sandwich in the top right external pocket. In the top left pocket, a microphone. In the lower left pocket, a bigger microphone. In the lower right pocket, a video camera. In another pocket, even lower on the right, heavy gloves in case I need them. In the inside left pocket, some other birding gear. On the inside right, toilet paper. Extra batteries and another microphone quarter in the top pocket near the neckline. Sitting on top of the coat, the digital recorder and binoculars that I will be wearing around my neck. All this stuff now weighs a ton. And I'm going to wear it for the whole day. What could possibly go wrong? 4:40 a.m. MapQuest says it's going to take me 2 hours and 4 minutes to get to the airport. but I'm leaving early so I don't screw up. I'm outside. It's a half moon, but brilliant and high in the sky. It's about 22 degrees, and the wind isn't up yet. Maybe it won't come up until after sunrise. Breakfast is some coffee cake left over from the holidays and a banana. It's 6:30 a.m. I'm just passing through Rockland. So this is a Christmas bird count. Every generation is insane in its own way. About 125 years ago, the Christmas side hunt was really popular. On Christmas Day, hunters would choose up sides, then head into the field and shoot everything in sight. At the end of the day, they would weigh the pile of dead animals, both feathered and furred, and the biggest pile won. The slaughter was indiscriminate, and it was incredible. It didn't matter if the wildlife was rare, useful, or even edible. Victory went to the highest body count. Naturally, this was a little hard on the wildlife population. This was the time when critters were starting to disappear all over the country, from buffaloes to passenger pigeons. This was an era when Yellowstone became America's first national park in 1872. Sequoia National Park followed in 1890. At the turn of the century, America elected Teddy Roosevelt, who went on to protect 230 million acres of public land. Frank Chapman was a leading bird guy of his day. He wrote a field guide at that time. It was Chapman who suggested that birds could just as easily be counted alive as dead. In 1900, the Christmas bird count began with 27 birders. Today, over 67,000 people participate in this holiday birding tradition, counting birds at more than 2,100 sites all across the country. Here's the way it normally works. Counts take place within circles, each with a diameter of 15 miles. Volunteers fan out along assigned routes to count every bird they find. Some people never leave the house, counting the birds coming to their feeders. Results are reported to the compiler, who totals them up and sends them off to National Audubon. With so many birders counting so many birds in so many places for so many years, scientists can readily track trends. We can watch the range of cardinals expand over the last century. In the 1980s, scientists became alarmed at the decline of the range and population of American black ducks. That allowed us to step in and do some conservation and stabilize this bird that is prized by everybody, especially duck hunters. But the Matinicus Christmas bird count is different. It's not a 15-mile circle. It's an island, and it's way out there. This is Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine. It's January 2nd. I'm just arriving at Knox County Regional Airport. The plane is fueling up, and it won't be long before I find out that everything I did was wrong. We're on the way to Matinicus. Stand by. This is Sports Radio 92.9, The Ticket. This is Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine on Sports Radio 92.9, The Ticket. It's a special show this morning. We're heading out to Matinicus for a day of adventure and misadventure. Superficially, this is about looking for birds in a Christmas bird count, but really, the show is about getting out to Maine's most remote inhabited island in January 2nd to be exact, on a day that is supposed to get pretty windy. Planning is everything. Sure wish I'd done that, right? 7 a.m. I've just been inside the terminal at Knox County Regional Airport. There's a maintenance crew in there, but nobody at the ticket counter. They point me to the next building over, a small one-room building, the home of Penobscot Island Air. Next to it, a small four-seater is getting fueled for the day. In about 20 minutes, I'll be in that plane heading out to sea. Now, you should know that I don't trust small planes, and I never put my full weight on them. On the way into the office, I meet Jeff Wells in the parking lot. He's on the phone with Rich McDonald, wondering where he is. And as it happens, Rich is already in the office, wondering where we are. To fully understand this Matinicus adventure, you've got to know who these guys are. Jeff Wells grew up in the Bangor area and got interested in birds at a young age. He's now Dr. Jeff Wells, and he's senior scientist for the Boreal Songbird Initiative. The group is a leading scientific organization that conducts research and advocacy on Canada's vast northern forest. A huge proportion of the world's songbirds go up there to breed, and since there aren't many people up there, we often don't notice just how big the impact is when a forest is cut down to make junk mail or millions of acres are flooded by a dam. Rich McDonald lives in Bar Harbor and has been operating Bar Harbor Natural History Center for the last several years. Most of the time, he's a professional naturalist and guide. We're doing this adventure on a Saturday. Rich is squeezing it in because in 5 more days, he's due to leave for the Antarctic, where he's going to be the chief naturalist on a German cruise ship. These are the guys I'm with. Me, I'm just an untrained radio guy who happens to be an idiot savant about birds. This means 2 things. On the one hand, I don't have to be the group's expert. Almost every time I go out with other birders, I'm the guide, and I'm supposed to know everything. So that's good. On the other hand, I got to bring my A game to this adventure because these guys are good.
So I had to go to Germany.
Yeah.
All right, let's get one guy to crow.
It's 7:10. The sun isn't up yet, but it's close. Penobscot Island Air is just like a taxi to the islands. They run mail and people out to Vinyl Haven, North Haven, and Matinicus. We meet Mike Falcaroni, our pilot, and climb into the plane. Sort of. Here's my first mistake. Remember about 7 minutes ago I described this big coat I'm wearing with all that gear stuffed into all of the pockets? No backpack or other carrying bag? Well, this is just a small Cessna. It's a mail plane with 4 tiny seats. You don't get into this plane, you sort of wrap it around you. So I'm wearing this stuffed coat the size of Texas. I can't even find the seat belt, let alone get it around me. Later on the return flight today, I'll know enough to take the coat off and store it in back with all the other gear.
Want me to get out, or you gotta?
Yeah, probably have to.
The other guys are having a little trouble too.
Tension on it.
Yeah, you got to kind of go in on an angle and twist.
It's only a 10-minute flight out to Matinicus. It's taken us that long just to buckle up.
You didn't just figure out where my seatbelt's out.
You know, I've used Rubik's Cubes that were easier.
Good thing it's not a Skywagon, man. You really would know the meaning of tight. Tight fit.
Finally, I'm done, and one by one, so is everybody else.
There you go.
Time to get started. Now, we can't see the sun yet, but it's daylight, and the breeze isn't too
There you go,
bad.
thanks. Get that hot towel for the face there.
Quick taxi, and this plane can take off on a dime. We've leveled off at 1,200 feet, just over 100 miles an hour. Penobscot Bay is beautiful, dotted with islands just offshore. Just now, the dawning sun breaks out of the clouds right on the horizon, and since it rises in the east, we're heading right into a gorgeous, breathtaking sunrise. What a view. The natives named it Matinicus, which meant far-out island in the Abnaki tongue. The French were the first Europeans to get there, using it as a base for fishing. In the early 18th century, pirates get out there too. Matinicus is only 2 miles long and about a mile wide, altogether about 800 acres. There are maybe 50 year-round residents, plus a bunch of summer homes. Not a lot of expensive ones, since it's farther out, a little harder to get to. As we're getting up to it, I'm a little surprised to see how forested it is. We've circled the island so that we can land into the wind, and I can see the harbor and the main road that runs down the spine of the island. There are some side roads, mostly dirt, that run to a few homes along the shoreline, but mostly it's wooded. I was kind of expecting it to be a little more barren, even though I've been out to Monhegan before and I know how wooded that island is. This is where it gets interesting. We start to drop altitude fast. I'm in the front seat right next to the pilot, and there's the runway, which from up here looks like someone's driveway. The winds have picked up and we're dropping toward the runway. The plane starts bucking like a carnival ride. I'm sure the pilot's going to go around again, but he just wing waggles his way down between the trees like the bush pilot he is. I guess this is normal. We're on the island.
All right, I'll lay you out in the back there first.
Okay.
There are some old trucks and a shed next to the dirt runway. That's the whole airport here on Matinicus.
First part of the day.
Yep. So far, so good.
Yeah.
I'm still wearing this huge coat, so getting out of the plane is just as hard as it was getting in. The wind is up now, 20 miles an hour from the west, which means it's blowing right over the treetops and across the runway. But The temperature's only about freezing, and I got a lot of clothes on. We get all the rest of our stuff out, and I'm already starting to think I'm overdressed. On any offshore island, the rhythm of the day involves meeting the plane. Somebody's always got stuff coming in or going out. And Rich McDonald has already gotten into a conversation with one of the islanders. When he finds out we're there to look for birds, he tells the tale of going over to Matinicus Rock, a big puffin colony right nearby. They call it the Rock, and he had been over to clean off some trash that washes up over there.
Went down and took them all some powder down there.
Nice.
Cleaned up. We had a boat. They picked up all the buoys and all the trash down there. We had my son's boat around.
When you're an islander, you notice the world change faster than a city dweller does. Like, there used to be thousands of common eider ducks around Matinicus. Now, there aren't.
What happened to the sea ducks?
I don't know. You're not seeing it a lot this year?
No. Last couple of years.
No, I
They used-
agree. I've not seen
There used to
nearly
be
as many.
flocks of probably anywhere between 1,500 and 2,000 birds.
Yeah.
And they'd raft up, and we used to go bird hunting when I was a kid. With all the old timers used to can them,
Yeah.
and we used to take and play dog, go chase them around and do that. You didn't have to make a bird stew, I think. And I don't know.
I think they're all up to Mount Desert Island because I've been seeing several.
Well, that's what I
thousands.
think. I think they might have. A lot of the smaller fish migrated that way.
And a lot of them went down to Massachusetts.
Yeah.
When I talked to Brad Allen at IFW.
I think a lot of it's whatever the food source is.
Yeah.
Well, and the green crabs are eating the mussels, so
Yeah.
Yeah. There's no mussels left.
no mussels
None.
left. That's why the eiders are gone.
Yep, that's it. That's what they used to. I mean,
Yeah,
you'd cut over the gizzards. That's what you'd for mussels.
exactly.
There's no mussels.
yeah, that's the problem.
Just about every sea duck hunter knows that the eiders aren't like they used to be. There's a good chance that the invasive green crab has eaten all the mussels, and that was the eider's favorite food. The ocean is a changing place, and a lot of what's going on in the Gulf of Maine is not good. This is Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine. I'm on Matinicus Island. It's about 7:30 in the morning on January 2nd, and we're about to count every bird we can find on this island today. It's the most remote Christmas bird count in Maine, and I'm on it. But for me, the birds are secondary. This is my first visit to Matinicus, and who does that in January? I just wanted to see what I've been missing. So let's go take a look at the island. You're listening to Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine on Sports Radio 92.9, The Ticket. This is Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine. Saturday mornings at 9, Sunday mornings at 8 on Sports Radio 92.9 The Ticket. If I had a bucket list, this would be on it. I've been on many of Maine's coastal islands, probably most of the inhabited ones, but not Matinicus. Not until right now. Who goes out there in January? I did, along with two other birders, on January 2nd. We were there to count birds for the Christmas bird count, but I was mostly interested in seeing the island for myself. As we pick up the action, we've just flown onto the island not long after sunrise. We've slung our gear, and I'm already doubting the wisdom of how I prepared for this adventure. I prepared for cold. It's not really. Even the wind isn't that cold unless we're right in the teeth of the breeze, and we're actually in trees much of the time. So this furry Arctic hat I'm wearing is way too warm. Likewise, I took no chances with footwear, so I'm wearing the heavy insulated boots I usually use to snowblow the driveway. I figured, how far are we going to walk on an island that's only 2 miles long? I figured wrong. By the end of the day, we'll do over 10 miles, and these are not the boots you want to wear for that. They're big and loose, and you can't take a big stride with them. Best I can do is shuffle my feet. My coat is enormous, and all the pockets are stuffed with my gear and rations. I dressed in layers, but a T-shirt under this coat would have been enough today. All this I'm finding out just as we start walking up the runway, and I've got 8 hours ahead of me, and there's no turning back because there goes the only way off the island.
Yeah, they don't waste any time. With that crosswind, it's a little. Sometimes.
Yeah, that was a little fun coming in. I'm thinking, is he going to wave off?
Yeah, it felt a little like an off a quick, fast and steep. So this Kirk guy.
To recap, we're going to count every bird we can find. The we is me, Rich McDonald of Bar Harbor, a professional naturalist and bird guide, and Jeff Wells, who has a doctorate in birds. He's an ornithologist and senior scientist for the Boreal Songbird Initiative in Canada, even though he actually lives in Hollowell. They both get around a lot. Our search begins right away, and I'm going to let you in on a little secret. You can try this right in your own backyard. Often when there's danger around, like a hawk or an owl, small birds will warn each other. In fact, they'll even chatter and invite other birds to join them in mobbing the predator, hoping to annoy it enough into leaving.
I think so. That was really fast.
Yeah. I see it. Yep.
The chatter sounds like a pish-pish sound. You can kind of imitate that, and birds will sometimes come and see what the fuss is about. Jeff is going to be doing that a lot today, and some more stuff you'll learn about. But we're right here on the runway, and already it's working.
You have that same kinglet?
Yeah. Nuthatch?
Yeah.
I'm hearing.
More kinglets?
Yeah.
A golden crowned kinglet comes in right away. Another one comes in behind it. A red-breasted nuthatch takes up the challenge, and a white-throated sparrow chimes in from beneath a bush just 20 yards up the road. We never saw them, but they heard us and came right in. It's gotten lively, and we haven't even been anywhere yet. So we're underway. We're going to walk down the middle of the island, venturing down several side roads before we get midway down the island and visit the harbor on Matinicus. Now, we're all trained professionals, so if a bird makes a noise, we'll notice it, and we can count the crows and gulls while swapping stories during the walk. Stories like the worst, most crowded long-distance drive you ever took anywhere.
Right on my lap. It was a fun one. We did a cross-country ski trip driving from the Adirondacks to Colorado, 4 of us in my old pickup truck. And I only had room up front for 2. So the other 2 were a couple volunteered to be in the back and zip their sleeping bag together. And we joked around that most of the trip they didn't want to get out of the back. I don't think they got much sleep that trip.
Ski trip to Colorado, my only one ever. Went with my friends. They had the condo. They brought their German Shepherd. So we're jammed in there with all the ski equipment because there's no racks. It was a rental. And the dog across our laps for a very long drive from Denver to Vail.
So here's another trick that works sometimes. Imitate an owl. Frankly, this almost never works for me, but Jeff is trying a barred owl, which is really Maine's most common owl.
Yeah, there's 2. At least 2.
Okay, sorry, Zach.
Between the pishing and owling, we got a couple of red-breasted nuthatches kind of mad at us. Doing a bird count on Matinicus in January is kind of nuts, but Jeff Wells has been doing it for 11 years. So I asked him why. Christmas bird counts have been around for 115 years, so it's no surprise that Jeff was doing them when he was just a kid. Before he was married with a family, he used to do the Monhegan bird count, an island with a ferry that runs even in winter, providing the weather doesn't mess it up.
You had to give up at least 2 days, sometimes 3, and if you got stuck out there, you could go 4 or 5 days. Which I did once as a younger person and with a family. It's not so conducive to,
It's hard to explain.
yeah, to being out that long.
Yeah.
So I looked into some other possibilities and found out that you could fly out here and back in the same day, and that's works pretty nicely for family scheduling and that sort of thing. So started doing that 10 or 11 years ago, and it's become a tradition. Whoever I can get to go with me. I've only had a few people who go multiple times, so I don't know what that tells me. But
Well, it's a once-in-a-lifetime experience, but maybe not twice.
yeah.
Well, you need to get an oddball like me who likes to come out to do weird things like this out in islands. I love islands.
Oh, yeah.
I can see doing this again.
Yeah, well, maybe I've got a couple of people who will become more than once. The other problem is that it's really hard to schedule it because of the weather stuff and everything. So it's kind of basically it's always one of these last-minute things, and hardly anybody can do that easily at last minute. Usually, I end up doing it during the week when there's not a competing count, but I couldn't really work that out this time. So there were a bunch of people who were interested, but they were competing counts because of the weekend. So
we're on Matinicus, counting birds. Now, there are really two reasons to do a Christmas bird count on an offshore island. First, it's different than anything else you're going to do all year, and Maine's coast is really pretty in winter if you can catch a good day. Second, birds that get lost in migration will settle down in unusual places. Islands can trap birds. If they arrive in good enough shape to fend for themselves and find some food, they'll tend to stick around for a while and tough it out. So we're looking for all the normal birds, but we're hoping for abnormal ones. In a moment, we get our first big surprise as Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine continues on Sports Radio 92.9, The Ticket. This is Sports Radio 92.9, The Ticket, with Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine. We've gone offshore for a little wildness today, Matinicus. It's an island about 20 miles offshore, about 2 miles long, 1 mile wide, and only about 50 people live on it year-round. I flew out to the island on January 2nd with a couple of other guys to do a bird survey, part of the annual Christmas bird count. So this is all recorded, and I'm wearing a digital recorder around my neck. I've also got heavy binoculars around my neck. We've only walked about 1.5 miles so far, but I'm starting to feel the weight of all this stuff around my neck, and I thought we'd be in the wind more, so I overdressed. And I'm wearing the heaviest coat, hat, and boots I own. I need a distraction from the growing discomfort, and fortunately right then, we get one. As we're drifting down a small drive to look at some bird feeders, we hear a crank. It's a familiar sound, a grackle. Now, you know the bird. It's a blackbird, like a red-winged blackbird, but without the red. These are birds that go south in winter and don't return to Maine until the end of March. We should not be hearing a grackle.
Oh, there it is. Just it was over the roof of that shed. There's two of them. I can barely see on this. One's in a tree just over the low angle roof, one feet behind the shed.
oh, okay.
There's a third.
Okay. Yeah, I saw a little piece of them there. I'll look like grackles.
Yep. There might be four.
There's a lot of movement going on back there. There's also non-grackles.
Yeah, I got definitely a grackle. At least one of them.
Common grackles. These should be in South Carolina right now, or somewhere a lot warmer than an isolated island in the Gulf of Maine on January 2nd. Typically, they're marsh birds, though once they're done nesting, they can get out in the weedy places and eat some grass seeds. But right now, all the marshes are frozen. They should be at least as far as New Jersey.
There's a mourning dove visible just to the left of the upper peak of the house.
We continue to count other birds, 3 mourning doves, a couple of chickadees. I take a few steps ahead of the others, and there's a big surprise. This isn't just a couple of grackles. This is a big flock.
Oh my God! There's more than 3.
Oh yeah,
The whole tree full of grackles. I'm not seeing anything that isn't a grackle, but that's about 100.
So you have to ask yourself, how did 100 grackles not only linger in Maine into January, but also end up on an isolated island? Which one of them said to the others, hey, let's fly way out there in the ocean to a place where there's no food? Well, right then the whole flock flies across the road and over our heads. The sky darkens for a moment. This is weird.
I don't recall ever seeing a grackle in January ever.
Had a couple out here before, like 2 or 3 at a time, but not.
We continue to walk toward the harbor and then past it out to the breakwater. Along the way, we encounter a couple of cardinals. There are cardinals on the island, so that's not a big surprise. But as the day continued, we kept running into more and more of them, more than I expected. We also were surprised by a hermit thrush, which shouldn't be this far north in winter, and a yellow-rumped warbler. That's an insect eater, which really ought to be down in Maryland this time of year. We're having a strange winter. Meanwhile, my heavy coat is too heavy because I stuffed the pockets full of gear. My big snow boots are too big for long-distance walking, and we've gone almost 2 miles by this point. I collapsed in the rocks along the water's edge and let the other two guys count the birds out in the ocean.
There's a bunch of ducks in the water there. Well, you know what? It could be an eider. It's now I see the ducks. It's bigger than I thought.
Oh, yeah. It was pretty big.
Yeah. At first I thought it was smaller, but size can be deceptive, though. I was certain it was smaller at first.
But this is one of the fun things about being a true Mainer. You know what Maine looks like. Or do you? Have you ever flown out of the airport in Bangor and tried to follow where you were from 20,000 feet up? Can you figure out the lakes and rivers that are so familiar to you on the ground, but look different from above? Well, it's fun from the ocean, too. Whenever I get in a boat offshore, I look for the telltale landmarks like lighthouses or the antenna fields in Cutler, just to see if I can recognize everything from a completely different angle. I've never been on Matinicus before, but here we are, next to the harbor. How much can I recognize from this angle? And how much can the other guys?
It's fun to come to a new place along the coast and try to reorient yourself as to where you are.
Yeah.
So, Rich, do you know where you are?
Let's see. Must be Isle of Ho out there, huh?
Isle of Ho, yep.
Yeah.
That's Seal Island over there.
Okay.
Matinicus Rock is back over there. I just saw the old lighthouse and stuff on it behind that island.
So what's that way out there?
That one I'm not sure about. Actually, that looks more like Seal Island.
Yeah.
In which case, I don't know what that one is.
I need to get a better view. I'll later learn that my mystery island is Wooden Ball Island, an uninhabited island that lies between the two big puffin colonies on Seal Island and Matinicus Rock. And besides, a handful of my favorite birds have just flown around us and landed further out on the breakwater. Purple sandpipers. They nest way up in the Arctic, and then most of the entire world's population sneaks into Maine for the winter. They're the color of wet granite, so they blend right in, and most people could walk right by them along the rocky coast of Maine and never realize they were there. So my two companions, Rich McDonald and Jeff Wells, start heading off to the next stop while I clamber out there for a better look.
Standing in the breakwater at Matinicus Harbor, it's just glorious. There's a 15, 20 mile an hour wind, but most of it's screened by the harbor and the trees, so it's actually not that bad today. Brilliant sunshine on January 2nd, which is the day of this trip. And it's fun to come to a place that you've always heard of but never been on, and you look around the ocean and see places you know, but from a different angle. So I'm trying to reorient myself. Standing here in the breakwater in the harbor, way off to my left, I can see the wind turbines on top of Fox Island over there around Vinyl Haven. Isle of Ho is pretty easy to pick up because it's high island. It's really tall. If I go right of that, there's Seal Island, which is a big puffin colony I go to several times a summer. That one's obvious because it's got cliffs on the far side, and from this angle, the cliffs are obvious. Then there's an island between here and there that I don't recognize. Matinicus Rock is behind another island over here on my far right to the other side of the harbor. It's blocked from view right now. Directly in front of me, purple sandpipers, which are like some of my favorite birds. They're cute, they're tame, look like little purple pigeons, and they're just squirming around the rocks down there. So that's the view from Matinicus Harbor. I may have to do this again sometime.
So I'm now about 10 minutes behind the other guys, and I'm beginning to hate my big, warm winter boots. They're just not for hiking, and every step is a labor. I passed some turkey tracks on the way back, and obviously turkeys were brought out to the island because they sure didn't get there on their own.
We had just more of the same. We had a bunch of chickadees and kinglets and nuthatches, song sparrows.
There were at least 2 more sandpipers in those rocks.
Oh, good.
And I couldn't tell you what was on the far side of those rocks, but there's a total of at least 7. That looked like a song sparrow.
Yep. We had 3 red-breasted mergansers out here.
Oh, cool. I was wondering where they were. Whoops, second song sparrow. How many do you have here?
3.
Okay. Then I won't count them. Unless 2 more go by.
Yes.
Sounds like one one white throat up there too.
Okay, so you remember that trick we did with the owl call earlier on today's program? That was a barred owl imitation earlier. Jeff Wells is now trying out a screech owl call. This really shouldn't work, because we don't have screech owls in Maine. There's no reason for our chickadees to know what that is and be upset about it. But a lot of our birds aren't actually here year-round, and some of them do spend time in the middle Atlantic states where there are lots of screech owls. So it's worth a try if you can do a good screech owl imitation, which I can't.
I see the white throat.
What we do have is saw-whet owls. Supposedly, saw-whet owls sound like the old-fashioned saws being sharpened by hand in a whetstone. These definitely prey on little birds, and the little birds should be mad about one being around. But they're kind of ignoring us. Besides, a lot of the saw-whet owls leave during the coldest part of winter and come back in March. Today's episode of Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine is on location, and that location is Matinicus Island during a Christmas bird count that took place on January 2nd. I'm out with two expert birders, Jeff Wells and Rich McDonald. By this point, we've walked about 3 miles, and we're still on the north end of the island. We're now going to walk down to the other end, but I'm just starting to limp. My boots are bad, my coat is too heavy, and I'm carrying too much radio gear, and I'm looking at this hike ahead of me as if it's a forced march in boot camp. I'm overheating and undereating, and lunch is on a beach 1.5 miles away. I'll meet you there in about 3 minutes. This is Sports Radio 92.9, The Ticket. Welcome back to Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine on Sports Radio 92.9, The Ticket. Today's adventure is a bit of a misadventure. On January 2nd, I went out to Matinicus with two other bird experts, Jeff Wells and Rich McDonald, to do a Christmas bird count. Although I am interested in the birds, I'm mostly using this as an excuse to see the island. There's no tourists here this time of year, but there are some local residents, and they're all repeating a pattern I've seen in other remote places. Everybody is really friendly. Having 3 strangers show up on a remote island 20 miles out to sea is something that doesn't happen every day out there. We're a bit of a curiosity, especially when residents find out we're there to count birds. They tell us where the bird feeders are, and we discuss some of the sexier birds that everybody knows, like eagles. By this point of the day, we've now walked the length of the island, struggled through some brush, and settled on a bluff above a sand beach in the south end of Matinicus. We're just around the corner from a howling wind, so it's comfortable. And the first thing I do upon arrival is lie down. I've done just about everything wrong. I knew it was going to be windy, but I didn't know we'd be in the trees blocked from that wind most of the day. So I'm really overdressed. I didn't bring a backpack. All my gear is stuffed in my heavy winter coat, making it even heavier. And I'm hiking in big insulated boots that were never meant for hiking. Not only am I just plodding along, but I can feel a blister forming, and I'm on exactly the wrong end of the island from where we're going to meet the return flight in a few hours. But it's a beautiful day to be out on the ocean on a remote island, blue sky, warm sun, fresh air. We're just totaling up the birds we can see from this particular sweeping expanse of ocean.
Let's see, long-tailed ducks.
Oh gosh, there's a lot of them.
Oh, that many? Yeah.
And I was I kind of scanned the whole thing. There's little patches of them all over the place, it seemed.
Any loons?
I did not see them.
Just the one redneck grebe?
Yep, 2 horned grebes.
I know I saw a couple of red-breasted mergs. Did you see more than a few, or
No,
what else? We saw white-winged scoters, 2, and black scoters, 3.
3 blacks.
Any other? Oh, the golden eyes. Yeah.
I have some slightly hardened turquoise velvet cake muffins that my daughter made. They're actually good, but I brought one for each of us if you guys want one.
No, I'm trying to quit.
Okay. Would you like one, Jeff?
Okay, I'll try one. What is it? A turquoise velvet cake?
She wanted to make red velvet cake,
Okay.
but she didn't have any red dye, so...
Oh, I see. Okay.
We stay sprawled in the grass for a while, and then leave our stuff long enough to peek around the corner, right into the teeth of the wind. Another inhabited island, Creehaven, is just across the channel, and I suppose there are people over there, but I can't see any sign of humans actually moving around. We've only got a couple of birds in this channel because sea ducks aren't all that keen to get tossed around by waves any more than people are, and they're mostly in the lee of the island over by our lunch spot. So we head back. On the journey back towards the north end of the island, we start to probe down several side roads along the way. Most houses are empty in winter, as you'd expect in a remote island, but we stay off private property anyway. There are a couple of places where we can look into the ocean and tally up some sea ducks. Looking back at the mainland, there are several northern gannets in the distance, with the Camden Hills as a backdrop. These are the largest birds out there, larger than the largest gull. And it's a pretty majestic view. We're picking up a lot more birds, too. We're up to 11 cardinals, and we keep scooping up chickadees. I think 45 total for the day, because they do react to that trick I told you about earlier in the show, the pishing sound that gets their dander up. Yeah, okay, it works on chickadees. It doesn't work on crows. That's just coincidence. We actually have to be careful how many crows we count because it may be the same few birds crossing the island back and forth that we might accidentally double count. So we're conservative. Here's the amazing thing. We're in the dead of winter on a small island 20 miles off the mainland, and altogether we end the day with a count of 610 birds actually seen, divided among 44 species. We've seen some birds that I've never seen in January. A couple of yellow-rump warblers, a northern flicker, a winter wren, a hermit thrush, and those 100 common grackles. Birds that really shouldn't be there, but were. Not bad. Maine is not a boring place in winter.
3, I think.
3 white-throats.
Minimum 3, yeah.
And
Got 3 chickadees. How much you get?
that's all I got.
I said 3.
3 white-throated sparrow. 3. Where are you? And a crow.
Hey.
For what it's worth. Oh, wait a minute. What's there? Oh, yeah, cardinal.
We've got about an hour left before the plane returns. Rich and Jeff want to go back to where the grackles were. I'm done. My blister is getting worse. I've lathered myself in sweat from overdressing, and I've still got a mile to walk back to the airstrip so they can have their additional detour. I'm going to go lie in the grass next to the runway. As it turns out, I didn't miss much. They catch up pretty soon. We walk to the end of the runway for one last look at the ocean, count up a few more ducks, and then scamper back up the runway as our plane comes in a few minutes early. This time, I know enough to throw my oversized coat in the rear and take a roomier back seat for the 10-minute flight back to the mainland.
Well, that leg room, Bob.
Oh, my God, yeah. Sleep back here for the long trip home.
Yeah, all 10 minutes. Actually, we'll have a headwind, so it probably will be a little longer.
So is this your 4th time out today?
Oh, no, I've been in Vinyl Haven, North Haven. Get around, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I swear, this plane could take off from a bowling alley. We're right into the sky, circle the island to gain altitude, banking so far to the left that I can look out the window straight down. So that's where we were walking. Jeff Wells has a Fitbit he got for Christmas. He reports we walked 11 miles on this 2-mile island. Everybody's exhausted, and I'm vowing never to wear these boots for a hike ever again. Within 15 minutes of another beautiful flight, this one into a setting sun, we're back at Penobscot Island Air.
Stiff and blistered. It must have been a good day.
what's the expression? Ridden hard and put away wet.
Yes.
How'd it go, guys?
It went well.
Good.
Yeah.
That's going to be my record for steps, though.
Yes, right.
Since I got it. I mean, I just got it at Christmas, but
Yeah.
24,898 steps. It's going to take a while to beat that one, I guess.
Who knew chasing a few birds and counting them up could be turned into a wild adventure? Maine in January is drop-dead gorgeous, and whether you're enjoying it on a sled, cross-country skis, or just from the car window in Acadia National Park, there's something out there for everyone. Just remember to dress right. My thanks to Jeff Wells and Rich McDonald for the Matinicus adventure. Remember, this show and all previous shows are archived at the web at 929theticket.com. A new show next week, Saturday morning at 9, Sunday morning at 8. Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine is brought to you by Hammond Lumber, Napa Auto Parts, and EBS. This is Sports Radio 92.9 The Ticket.